Throughout the pandemic, we turned to the Internal Revenue Service to keep our country from economic collapse. After decades of partisan attacks and the intentional starvation of the agency, we asked the agency to accomplish the impossible, to process nearly 150 million tax returns worth $365 billion, issue 479 million pandemic stimulus payments totaling $812 billion, and send child tax credit payments to 36 million families totaling $93 billion, thereby lifting 1/4 of children in the United States out of poverty. These evolving responsibilities and requirements did not always go smoothly. More than 195 million people called the IRS for help during the 2020 filing season, which is nearly 4.5 times more calls than it received in 2019. Unfortunately, about 82% of those calls received busy signals or disconnections, and the taxpayer simply hung up out of frustration. The IRS is entering the tax season with a massive backlog of about 23.5 million tax returns and pieces of correspondence related to last year's tax season. We're asking the IRS to boil the ocean. Congress, at a minimum, must resource the IRS appropriately and then hold IRS leadership accountable for making sure those resources are properly deployed to provide the American people the level of service they deserve from this vitally important agency. Today's hearing will examine how the IRS can make it through this tax season. We know constituents in every district across the nation struggle to get the help they need to receive the money they're owed by their government. We will hear what steps the IRS, Congress, and the American people can take to avoid busy signals, missing refund checks, and unnecessary billion-dollar interest payments on delayed returns. We'll look at how decades of deliberate starvation of the IRS by the Congress can be countered with robust appropriations and new hiring flexibilities. If you look at the figure on your screen, you will see IRS appropriation levels for the past 20 years. The blue line represents appropriations adjusted for inflation. From 2010 to 2019, 9 years, you'll see a steady decline in appropriations with a nadir in 2019. In the past 2 years, the years that coincide with Democratic control of Congress, you'll see a reinvestment in the IRS. This chart does not include $1 billion appropriated to the IRS in the American Rescue Plan that is targeted for long overdue IT modernization. Years of IT system neglect and a failure to modernize have left the IRS saddled with an operation highly dependent on obsolete programming languages like COBOL, Visual Basic, and Assembler language code. Most of these languages are not even taught in schools anymore. More than 23% of the IRS applications, 287 out of 1,242, are considered legacy systems because they're 25 years or older and they lack broad vendor support. As of October 2021, about 14% of all IRS hardware and 15% of its software is considered legacy. It's unacceptable that so many software programs are 2 or more versions behind the most recent vendor-released updates. While the IRS knows these legacy systems hamstring its potential, the agency can't say what it will cost to modernize those systems because of the way the agency is required to report costs to the Office of Management and Budget. This year, those reporting requirements have changed. Let's hope that the commissioner might soon have a clearer answer for us about the IRS's IT modernization needs and plans for proceeding. The IRS staffing trends tell a similar dismal story. If you look at the screen again, you will see that the size of the IRS workforce shrunk from fiscal year 2010 through fiscal year 2018. In recent testimony before the Ways and Means Subcommittee on Oversight, Commissioner Reddick stated that staffing levels at IRS, currently hovering around 79,000, are close to those of 1974, almost 40 years ago. Oh, actually, almost 50 years ago. IRS enforcement staffing levels have decreased by 30%, while real gross domestic product increased by 29%, and filing population increased by 14%. Over the next 6 years, Commissioner Reddick, you stated that you estimate you will need to hire 52,000 employees just to maintain current understaffed levels. The severe financial, technical, and staffing problems at the IRS were predictable and a direct result of years of partisan hostility here in Congress, reckless investigations, and unwarranted budget cuts. And today, as we head into this year's tax season, the IRS often finds itself gasping for air. I hear from constituents every day who are battling the IRS online, telephone, and in-person systems to get their refund, money they need to buy medication, groceries, or their children's school supplies during a pandemic. I've assisted an increasing number of constituents during the pandemic who are struggling to file taxes on behalf of recently deceased loved ones, for example, a process the IRS sometimes does not get right. I have a family in my district who filed their taxes out correctly, but nonetheless have been threatened with hundreds of dollars in fines because someone within IRS keyed their return inaccurately. This family has been working since 2019 to find anyone within IRS to listen, to let them show the IRS they did everything right. Every member attending this virtual hearing has heard from constituents who cannot reach a customer service representative, people who spent countless hours on hold on the phone or could only reach a busy signal. And they're frustrated that the online Where's My Refund tool fails to give them information that could help avoid having to make the call in the first place. I've continuously engaged in oversight of the IRS, including a hearing on the IRS in the pandemic in October of 2020. We've written oversight letters with my vice chair, Ms. Porter, asking the IRS to prioritize processing the tax returns of individuals on the brink of poverty who need their refund to thwart eviction. I've asked about ways to help address and prevent backlogs. Most recently, we've joined again in encouraging our appropriators to give the IRS the funding they've requested in order to make the investments they need to staff and to provide modern IT to be better serve taxpayers. We're here today to find ways to help IRS succeed. One no-brainer is to support the $80 billion investment in the IRS within President Biden's Made in America tax plan. The Independent Congressional Budget Office estimated in response to a request of information from Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina that the $80 billion investment requested by President Biden would increase revenues by $207 billion, thereby reducing the federal deficit by $127 billion through 2031. The other no-brainer is requiring the IRS to invest in 2D barcoding technology. Again, partnering with our vice chair, Ms. Porter, we introduced Streamlining IRS Operations Act, which would require the IRS to use scanning technology on any paper return generated using tax prep software. And I congratulate Ms. Porter for her leadership in that legislation and in bringing this issue to the forefront. When enacted, this legislation would help eliminate the IRS backlog and increase accuracy because it removes the need for IRS employees to transcribe every digit and letter from a paper return, which of course has a high error rate. The Taxpayer Advocate Service has recommended the implementation of this technology for 18 years. And GAO also noted that the scanner technology benefits outweigh any perceived costs. That's actually a pretty strong stance for GAO. I look forward to hearing from the Commissioner and the National Taxpayer Advocate today. We want to know how we're going to make it through this tax season as efficiently as possible. We need to know how we'll build the IRS we need for the future. We need to hear your vision, Commissioner Reddick, for how to put the IRS on terra firma with hopefully strong congressional support, and how we write the course an essential agency attempting to rebuild itself from years of underfunding and disinvestment. With that, I now recognize the distinguished ranking member, Mr. Heiss, for his opening statement,